Okay, what's going on, everybody? Oh, goodness. How's it going? I'm Jay. Welcome to the Ono Coffee channel. This is our live stream, our coffee Q&A, practical brewing with the V60. And that's what we're going to be doing today, is talking about the V60 and practical ways to do it. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments over here. And if you're watching on the replay, drop in the comments down below. So now that we've got that over with, you know, when you're watching videos on YouTube about coffee brewing, or if you're just reading about it, you're going to see all kinds of people giving all kinds of recipes with all kinds of super distinctive and serious, like, you must do this at this interval and that at this interval. It's all very precise, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? That can be important, but for most people, do you really want to do that? Like, I've been a barista now for 21 years. I've been doing coffee for the entire time, and you know, if you're not familiar with me, I run my own coffee company and roastery, as well as I've run shops, multiple shops at times, and trained baristas all over the world. And so it's nice to have all these beautiful ways of doing it. But a lot of times you just want to make coffee, and like in the morning, especially in the morning, like for me personally, like in the morning, I just want to have a nice coffee, and I don't really want to take too long to do it. So what we're doing is we're going to go over with some basic thoughts on what to do for making coffee with the V60, just to make a 12-ounce cup. So what we're going to need, of course, is coffee, and coffee is important. You want to have nice quality coffee. You know, of course, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to tell you, oh, buy this cup of coffee, buy that coffee. Buy whatever you want. If you want to buy Folgers, that's fine. You know, if you want to buy Cafe du Spro, that's fine too. If you want to go buy super high-end stuff, great. If you want to buy coffee from me, sprocoffee.com. Down below, there's a link in the description. We buy very nice coffee, and hopefully you'll be pleased with it. But anyway, get whatever you want. And yes, you want to have it fairly freshly roasted. So within a month, I think, is a good time. Closer to the roast date is probably better. Just gives you more time to use it. You want to have it roasted to whatever degree of roast you like. We're not going to get into like different roast profiles or what you should have for your coffee. What you want is what you want. But what you really want to do is you want to manage the amount of water, the temperature of the water, and the amount of coffee, as well as the time that the coffee and the water are in contact together. It is that time together that extraction occurs. And extraction will occur at any temperature level, right? So because we've got coffee that we're brewing cold brew, we have coffee that we're brewing in espresso, we have coffee that we're brewing in pour-overs and all French presses and all kinds of stuff. All of that has to do with contact time, right? So when we're doing cold brew at cold temperatures, we're talking now hours, 16 hours, 24 hours, whatever. But if we're talking like espresso, it's hot, it's under pressure, and we're pushing it through in 30 seconds. But for this, what we want to do is we want to have a good temperature, which is probably right around 200 degrees Fahrenheit. 190 to 200 degrees is good. So basically, I just boil the water and just kind of let it cool off for a few moments, just to get off the boil and to cascade down. Now, remember, once you removed your water from the heat, it's always cascading in temperature. Once you open up your kettle or pot and you pour it into something that you're going to dispense it in, again, it's going to nosedive. So there is no way around the nosediving. So you just kind of work with it. So that's why I keep it kind of running pretty hot. And then we're just going to get our coffee. So what we're going to do is that we will be taking our coffee. Let me make sure we have a little bit of view for you above. All right, so we're going to take our scale. So there we go. One of the best ways to do this is to get a scale. And this is a lab scale. You don't have to buy a scale this nice. You can buy whatever scale you want. It's kind of up to you. Most of the time I'm using little inexpensive $14 scales that I get from Amazon digital. They have resolution either down to 1/10 of a gram or sometimes down to 100th of a gram. But what we're going to do is we're going to make a 12-ounce cup of coffee. And the basic rule of thumb that I like to use is 2 grams of coffee for every finished ounce. So if we're going to make a 12-ounce cup of coffee, we're going to multiply that number by 2, we're going to use 24 grams. So really simple ratio. Like a lot of people you'll see online, they'll talk about brew ratios. 17 to 1, 16 to 1, 15 to 1. You know what? I don't have that kind of mental capacity to sit there and calculate I need 17 grams of water for for 1 ounce of one gram of coffee. I don't want to do that. This is much more simple. This gets you to the gold cup standard, that ideal ratio of like so many TDS, total dissolved solids, whatever. We don't really worry about that. So let's get into it. We're going to weigh out, like I said, 24 grams. And the coffee that I'm using today is actually from the Philippines, from a grower by the name of Cherry Kamadai. And she's a really lovely grower in the Manaya region of the Philippines. You can kind of see it here. This is actually roasted by my friends Thomas and Bombi at Coffee Culture Roastery in the Philippines. They're in a town called Bacolod, which is in Negros, which is the central part of the Philippines. Fantastic roasters and making fantastic coffee. I was there back in May, or no, actually I was there back in June, and touring around with them. They gave me this bag, and I've been enjoying it ever since. But as you can see, it's a pretty light. There we go. It's a relatively lightly roasted coffee. Like right here, it looks really light, and yeah, it's a nice coffee, really lovely flavors. So what we'll do is we're going to grind that. Now for grinding with pour over. So here's the thing, with pour over, you want to create resistance to the water flow, right? So water will always follow the path of least resistance, and you're using the coffee, the ground coffee, to provide a bit of resistance so that it just doesn't flow through. So imagine what it'd be like if I just took this whole bean coffee, right, and I just poured water through it, right? It would just flow like boom, it would just be boom, right? So by grinding it, we're creating a matrix of resistance to the flow of the water. And that's really what gives us the contact time of the water with the coffee that allows the solubles in the ground coffee to extract into the water and then emulsify together and then flow through the filter, down into your cup and have your coffee. So we're going to grind this up. We're going to use a fairly medium grind. And you may have, depending on the grinder that you're using, you may have to play with it depending on its settings and whatnot. But you just want to give it a nice medium grind. And you know what, here's the thing. So as you're, as you make coffee, and this is not something I would sit down and do daily. Like I would do this every day when I make coffee, and I would just especially if I'm home, I would just go and adjust the grind as I think is necessary based on what happened the day before. All right, so we're just going to grind this up. Now, as you can see, we are here at our roastery cafe, which is known as the Cafe du Spro here in Baltimore. And, it's different than if I was doing this at home. So I've got like commercial grinders. This is the Compact R80, which is an 80 millimeter flat burr grinder. Really fantastic. But you don't have to use that kind of stuff. You don't need that kind of stuff to get the results that I'm going to be sharing with you today. So basically here is the ground coffee. As you can see, it's fairly light and it has, nice color. And this is the kind of grind we're looking for, a nice medium grind to give us good resistance to the coffee, to the water. Now we're using the V60 because the V60 is ubiquitous in America. Like everybody uses this, right? Everybody talks about it. It's got this Venturi interior that's supposed to swash the thing around, and it's got this big hole in the center there so that the water flows through. But honestly, I really think that this Hario V60 is kind of like, I don't think it's ideal for home brewers. Like I don't really like it for, if I was to recommend a brewer, a pour-over brewer, I would want something that has smaller holes, multiple holes. Like there's a couple brewers out there which escape my thinking at the moment. But there's a number of them where you can buy them and they're more of a wedge instead of a cone. And they have like smaller holes that restrict the flow more. And that's really nice because I like that restriction for most things, because with the V60 and this large hole, you really have to if you're really doing this, you really have to like be precise in your pouring, and you have to control your pour really well. And that just makes it much more, it makes it much more difficult. And like, to be honest with you, if I'm making this at home for myself, or even here, to be honest with you, like most of the time I drink coffee, I drink it here at the roastery because I'm working all the time, right? So I really don't want to spend a lot of time being very cutesy with my coffee. I just want to have coffee and be done with it. And that's kind of why I kind of show you these techniques. And so we're going to get this big, that conical filter, right? Let's go here. And I'm going to put this on. So what I'm doing is I've got a vessel here to use to catch all of it. But you could brew directly into a cup. Most of the times I will brew directly into the cup. Except for today. I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to put this over here so you can see it better. Now, we've got a conical filter, V60. You can buy V60 conical filters, but we never did. Like, you'll see them here on the channel because I'm using them for testing, but really in real world applications, we're using basic number 4 milliliter filters that we buy in bulk because they're perfectly fine and they're fantastic filters. Like, you don't really, there's all these super fancy filters. Like, you've got to have like super tasting in order to taste the difference. And you know what? I'm drinking coffee and I want to drink coffee with something like a breakfast. I'm not too worried about that. All right, so let's take this. So in this case, it's a wedge-shaped filter. And of course, the wedge shape doesn't really fit in a conical filter. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these, see how it's got these crimped seams here? Right. We're just going to fold it over from seam to seam, from point to point, and that's going to create us an oblong cone that will work beautifully for the V60. Now, I just do it out of habit. I like to take the folded edge and put them right here in line with the handles, right? This is how we teach our baristas, mainly because we want to have uniformity in approach. And now we're going to take this and we're going to put this on top of our scale and tare it. Although this old scale doesn't like to tear very well, so usually I just have to restart it. And so, oh my, that's not friendly. So far away from you, sorry. I'll work on that for next time. I actually got the camera, the overhead camera on an arm that is pretty much fully extended, and it doesn't quite come as far as I'd like it to come. Maybe for next live stream we'll be ahead of that. But let's go back to it. We're going to take this and we're going to just pour the ground coffee in. And I just like to shake it a little bit just to try to keep it level. Right? All right, there we go. That's good. Oh, let's see, 24, so that's good. We got 24 grams. It just double checks us there. Great. Let me try to heat the water back on since I've been babbling. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. If you have any questions and you're watching the replay, drop them down below. Happy to answer any kind of coffee question you might have. Like I said, I've been doing coffee now for 21 years and been working in most of it, cafe operations, roasting operations, coffee roaster, coffee barista, coffee green buyer. Generally, somehow have prevented us from going totally bankrupt, which is good. And now, coffee YouTuber. All right, so one of these things is really hot here today. And I'm looking on the screen, and I think maybe I need more lighting. What do you think? Do I need more lighting this way? Am I looking a little bit dark? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our kettle. We have a kettle, right? So this is how I boil the water here. But it's not great for pouring because it doesn't quite, it doesn't quite, it's not so controllable. Plus, it's also huge. This is like 5 liters. So what I do is I'll just transfer it to a new pot, a pouring kettle. This one's a enameled steel pouring kettle, which I probably feel too much. And yeah, it's great. This has this goose neck that has this pelican-shaped nozzle, which really allows severe control of the drip. If I really want to control it, I can. All right, let us, what do we need to do? Okay, so we need a timer. We're going to count up so we can see what's going on. Let me switch the thing here. So we're going to start now, and we're going to start by the moment we hit it. So what I really want to do, if I'm using a scale, I'm really just trying to wet the coffee thoroughly. So as you can see, this little pelican, with enough practice, you can really have superior control over the pour. The only problem with this particular kettle is that now that I filled it up pretty heavily with hot water, that heat is now transferred to the handle that I'm holding it. And we're at 30 seconds, or 56 grams. We can go a little bit heavier with the pour now. Really, I normally will do 85 grams for the initial pour. But everything's always changing, right? Everything is always, you can always adapt to it. So like I said, why are we timing it? We're looking for 3.5 to 4 minutes total time with 350 milliliters of water added to it. We have a little bit of a technical issue. There we go. Sorry, one of the batteries died on us. And so here's what can happen. Something can happen, and now you can have this whole interruption. So we're at 127, and now we're at 2 minutes. So when we might have to give it a little bit more force. So until this point, I haven't really raised the coffee bed. I'm going to raise it just a little bit to get a little bit more coffee in there. Now, there's no real hard, fast rules that I have whether I like to fill it up and raise the bed just slightly so that everything is fully hydrated. And then the goal is really just to keep it hydrated at that similar water height for the rest of the brew, and that's already flown through. So we're at 2 minutes, 32 seconds, 201 grams. That's kind of, yeah, it does look a little bit dark, doesn't it? Oh, well, we lost. All right, now we're at 3 minutes. So we're going to be behind the curve this time, mainly because, I just kind of we had a little bit of technical issue. $264. We're still about 85 grams short of our target, and we're at 3 minutes, 16 seconds. So my pour was a little bit slow today. So that's one of the things you just kind of have to watch out for. And this is one of the things that I don't really like about these type of brewers is that it really requires a lot of meticulous attention, or it just requires attention. If I use an Avid Clever, which is an immersion brewer, then I can just basically add the coffee, add the water, bloom the coffee first for 30 seconds, add the rest of the volume, and then walk away for the next 2.5 minutes. Where this one, you kind of have to. All right, so we are at 325. So we're going to go all the way up to 350, even though we've already passed the 4 minute mark. All right, there we go, 351. All right, that'll work. So we're just going to take this old water, pour it back into our kettle, so that we can continue to use it. All right, that's pretty much it. We're at 436. perhaps not the most ideal time, but also not, not 5 minutes. So I'm just rinsing out the V60. Now we've got this is a Bodum mug glass. I'm just gonna, you can heat it up a little bit or not, it's up to you. And then we're gonna have our coffee. Again, this is the cherry kabandai coffee from the Philippines. Oh yeah, there's a distinct difference than the last cup that I had of this. That was determined because of the interruption that we had with the, the interruption that we had with the brewing. Yeah, there's definitely a difference. It's a longer brewing cycle, a little bit more of an error during the brewing cycle, so we're getting a little bit more drier, bitter tones, right? This coffee, so I did a live stream last night on the Ono Live channel for our coffee and cigar show, and you can see that, and you can see me brewing this with the same technique, but the results are very different because of how the process turned out. So you're going to have issues. Sometimes you're going to have issues with the way things happen as you're brewing, like today, technical issue with the camera. So I had to go address that in the middle of the brewing, so that extended our brew. So there is still some of that nice, light cherry, kind of sour cherry notes, lighter body because of the roasting. But there was a sweetness that I've had in this coffee before that's just not really quite present in this particular cup. All right, we're gonna have to come back to that again. All right, so for the next episode of our live streams here in the Coffee Q&A, anything you're interested in seeing or any learning about, let me know, and we'll try to put that together. I'm trying to do more of these live streams so that we can have a moment to engage and discuss whatever's on your mind. So if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, put them in the comments. I'd love to hear about them. And yeah, other than that, I guess that's good for now. We're going to head out, keep on brewing, and let me know how it goes. All right, see you next time.